Hey guys, I'm Becky and welcome back to my channel. So today with Enduring Finances, we're going to be talking all about food storage and why you need it as a safety measure. So we know since the 1970s, we've witnessed a restructuring and reconfiguring of how some companies handle manufacturing and inventory systems. The Toyota production system was the one that actually led this kind of transition from a just-in-case inventory system to a just-in-time one. But what does that really mean? Well, a just-in-case inventory system means there's an excess of available goods. In case there's a supply shortage or something happens to limit the ability to complete production, they have additional inventory, additional parts and products and supplies on hand that they can use immediately to keep production flowing without a hitch. So a just-in-time inventory system is the opposite of that. There's no excess. There's no warehouse of parts that you might need if something happens. It's ordered on a pace-by-pace basis for each product that is completed. So essentially, one slip-up in that supply chain of all those different parts coming together means that the entire production is slowed down or potentially stopped. While operating with a just-in-time inventory system can be very cost-effective, it lowers your overhead. You don't have to have space to store them, those pieces, those parts in a warehouse, and less storage space is required. There's a lot of high risk with it, and by that I mean a lot of monetary value risk involved. If the supply system fails, even in one small hiccup, the production gets halted. It can't move forward without that piece, and it just creates this daisy chain effect where this part isn't in, so this part can't get completed, and that can't, and that can't, and that can't, and everything is delayed because of one piece. So a great example of this is actually from 1997, which is an example from Toyota itself, who is the front runner of bringing this just-in-time inventory system to life. They lost $8 million because one of their suppliers had a fire, and they couldn't produce that for a couple of weeks, only just a couple of weeks, not even a month, I don't think. And they lost $8 million because they couldn't produce their products. It stopped the entire chain from running. And I think we, as Americans, as the world in general, have experienced what happens when just-in-time is not fast enough. With COVID-19, we've seen supply chains that have completely shut down. They're not functioning. They've been rerouted to make different products like masks or ventilators for hospitals. As a country, we've had to ration those medical supplies. There's not enough surgical masks or N95s or PAPRs or anything like that to meet the demand that we have. And we've seen horrendous delays with everyday household appliances, from the refrigerator to the washer and dryer to your grandmother's bed frame. There's a backlog for months of getting basic products in that normally we wouldn't have an issue with. Then you factor in the thousands, literally thousands of shipping containers that are sitting on ships outside of ports to be unloaded and distributed across the United States. And we're looking at supply chain issues around the world. And we're walking into what some people would consider their worst nightmare. As we head into 2022, we're all seeing the increases in prices. Meat prices alone are skyrocketing. They're through the roof now. Processed goods are in short supply, and people are talking about shortages occurring all through this next year and maybe even longer, depending how long it takes to fix the supply chain issues that we're running into right now. And we know the basics of supply and demand well enough to know that more supply means less demand and less cost, which is what we've been pretty much operating in for quite a while. And now we're flipping that around. We're flipping the table around, and we're seeing less supply, which means there's going to be a higher demand for less products, which means costs are going to go up. So why do you need a food storage? Why do I think it's important for you to have a food storage? Well, when it comes to your food and your basic needs as a human being, we can easily see how a just-in-case inventory supply is a good way to ensure that you have the ability to support yourself and survive through a supply chain issue. But supply shortages aren't the only reason why having a food storage is a good idea. So here are some reasons why you should have and maintain a food storage supply. One is just financial security. Say you lose your job and it takes you a month to find another job. You don't have to worry about making ends meet and putting food on the table, because you've got a storage back there that you can just pull from and then fill it back up once you get back on your feet. Economic crisis and price increases. We're seeing that right now. Prices are going up. The economic stability of the United States and the world is unbalanced at the moment. So you can use your storage or the ability to store food to buy in bulk, get the best cost, the best price for the food that you're getting, and you can shop for sales. You can use coupons, you can buy when they're at the best possible chance and store them for a long time. So natural disasters, which are often unpredictable and unknown durations. So you could be without food or without power or running water for days on end until everything is back up and running, because storms can come through and wipe out power grids, and flooding can take out the ability to drive to the store, and fires can run through and you're literally running away to save your own life. And there's just so many natural disasters that can happen. So having a food supply is very effective when you don't have the ability to go to the store, or you don't want to go against the crowd of people who are in the exact same situation and just trying to survive. Lastly, it's convenient. It makes you self-sufficient. You have what you need. If you want to have popcorn night with your movie, you don't need to go to the store to buy it. You can just walk in your storage closet and grab a box of popcorn and have popcorn. And then of course, supply chain shortages. Things happen, machines break down, disasters happen that cause all this. So it just is a safety net to ensure that if there's any hiccups in supply chains or natural disasters or anything like that, a food storage is a safety net that protects you and anybody that you live with or care about. So what is a food storage? Food storage is your way of being prepared for those just in case it happens situations. It's looking past the first few hours of emergency and having a plan in place for those longer periods that it takes to rebuild and recover. We can compare it to the survival rule of 3, where it takes 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food before you die. If we look at that in survival settings, you're going to be looking at like 2 to 3 weeks of food at the minimum to survive. Food, water, and air are the basics of what you need to survive. Luckily, we don't really have to worry about oxygen. It's in the world all around us. It's only very rare scenarios that we need to worry about that. But water can be a big thing. 3 days, that's all it takes to die from dehydration if you don't have any. And if a natural disaster does happen and your water lines are shut down, you might not have access to water for more than a week, which is a problem because 3 days is all it takes to die. So as a rule of thumb, it's important to think that you have a supply of 2, maybe 3 weeks of water and 3 months of food. But I think the most important thing is just at least have a week's minimum supply. If you have a very small house or a studio apartment and you can't have much, try and at least have just a week that gets you through that initial and then you can make plans to get out of that situation. So where do you start when it comes to building a food storage? Well, I think water storage is the easiest place to start. After pizza night and you've got those 2-liter bottles of soda that you've been drinking, you don't have to recycle them. You can just wash them out really good, fill them with water, and label them with a date of when you fill them up. And there you go. You've started your water supply. And you just keep doing that until you build up a good supply of it. And even if you do run out of that initial supply of water, if you have iodine tablets or a water filter that you can take out and literally filter water or boil it, you'll be alright because you can make do with what you've got. With food and other supplies, the best place to start is just simply buying more of what you're already using and building it up little by little. While rice and beans are the staple that most people think of when they think of food supply and staying alive, those are great in a pinch, but I know that I don't want to live off of beans for 3 months. So if we can avoid it by planning ahead, we're going to save ourselves a lot of discomfort in that fact. So a rule of thumb is we're going to go with the 2,000 calorie diet. So you're consuming 2,000 calories a day as an adult. That's about 1.5 pounds of food a day, and you're aiming for a 3-month supply of food. Quite a bit of food. The basic items like flour, sugar, rice, and beans are a staple of what most people vision in their food supply. But it's important not to forget about medication, my vitamins, personal hygiene items. You don't want to run out of diapers if you've got a little toddler running around who needs them. Or if you're going to have your period anytime in the next 3 months, you might want to have feminine hygiene products as well. You want to make sure that you have toothbrushes and toothpaste and toilet paper and just basic first aid items that you're going to need day in, day out. Laundry soap, laundry detergent, dish soap, all of those things, those household products that you use, you're going to want to have. And then you can't forget about your pets because, well, they eat, they drink, they poop, but they also need to be taken care of. So they're going to impact your water supply. They're going to impact your food storage space because they have to eat to survive just like you do. So how do you go about storing the food? Well, I think the most important thing is just trying to keep it up off the ground. Usually 3 to 4 inches is about all you need to try and get it away from anything that could be going on the floor. Everyone organizes differently and has different space to work with. Find a plan that works for your own space. Find a way to rotate through the products without making it a huge hassle for you. I know my parents use this type of setup where it literally these shelves are built so that the cans roll down. So you take it from the bottom and then the next can that you need to use just rolls down. And so you put the newest purchased cans at the back and then they just roll through automatically. One thing you need to keep in mind when you are storing food is that you label what it is if you can't clearly identify it and when you need to use it by. You don't want to be looking at it going, I don't remember what it is or when I got it, so I can't use it. Then you just take that food that you're eating day to day right now and you rotate it through your storage system. Most canned foods can be stored for at least a year without question. And if you're buying it from the store, like these beans right here, they're going to have an expiration date somewhere on the can that tells you when it expires. And so you need to know you need to eat it before that. So this is good till February 2023. Now, if you have time, canning your own food is a really good avenue to approach because it's really cost effective. And you can pick out fresh fruits and you know exactly how they're being canned and how they're being maintained. And you can label them yourself on the year that you canned them. And you know that these peaches, canned this year 2021, are going to be good for quite a while because we can check the seal right there and know that it's still fresh. Now, I know canning goods can be a little bit time consuming, but it's really effective. Aside from canning your own food, you might want to consider growing your own garden. If you have a greenhouse or space in your yard, you can put in fresh fruits and veggies every single year and grow your own produce to survive off of. Then, if you really want to, you can can that yourself and eat your own food year round. Another great thing, if you have enough space for it, is a chest freezer. You have the ability to store meats and vegetables and fruits and ice cream for long periods of time with minimal effort. Especially if you're into hunting and fishing. That can be really good if you get a whole deer. You have a chest freezer you can store the meat for a long time with. So, last note before I let y'all go. One thing that you really should have is a 72-hour kit. And by that I mean a bug out and go bag. A bag that has the basic needs that you need to survive for at least 72 hours, which is 3 days. So we're talking food, water, clothing, feminine hygiene projects, anything like that. And in a worst case scenario, you can grab and go. Because I know that if I had a fire right now, I would grab this bag, run out, get my truck, and I would go to my brother's house. So I have food, I have water, I have shelter, and I have a plan because I know where I'm going and what a short-term solution would be. So have a plan ahead, and you'll be all right.